Titans Seahawks preseason week 2. What did we learn about the Titans roster, about specific players, who stood out and who struggled a bit? We're going to recap it all right now. This is the Music City Audible. Let's get to it.
Will actually be from 46 yards out. Braden Narveson already with a 59-yarder for the win.
Oh, welcome everyone to another episode of the Music City Audible podcast presented by Broadway Sports Media in partnership with 440 Sports. I'm Justin Graver. With me, as always, Justin Melo. And Justin, how are you feeling? 2 weeks into the preseason, the Titans get a nail-biter, come-from-behind victory. How's it going, my friend?
I'm doing well. It was exciting to see them win in that come-from-behind fashion that they did. Maybe I'll stop short of calling the game exciting. You know, it's definitely a little sloppy. You can tell. I think Titans had 38 guys not playing in this game. You can tell it was second stringers and third stringers, guys fighting for their NFL lives, fighting for their roster spot. So it definitely had that element to it. But I was thrilled for the young kicker, Braden Narveson, to go out there and do what he did. I mean, what was the game winner? 46, 47 yards. It wasn't exactly a gimme. And then, of course, you've got the 59-yarder, freaking historical, the second longest kick ever made by a Titans kicker at Nissan Stadium, which is really wild when you think about it.
Yeah.
So I was pumped for that kid.
Yeah, the longest ever was Rob Baronis' 60-yarder to beat the Colts back in 2006, I believe, something like that. So yeah, amazing to see that in a preseason game, a kicker battling for a roster spot comes in and just ices through a 59-yarder. And the crazy thing about that kick, Brian Callahan said press game, is he didn't want to kick it. He was ready to send the punt team out. And Colt Anderson implored him to give the kid a shot to kick the 59-yarder, and he rewarded that faith by knocking it through. Probably would have been good from even further than 59. Of course, Brandon Aubrey goes out later that night and makes a 66-yarder, so it's not even the longest field goal of the day. But still the second longest field goal in Nissan Stadium's history, which is just crazy, by a Titans kicker, as you said. Unfortunately, Brian Callahan also said after the game that Nick Folk's job is secure and that this is not a kicking competition. And my question to you, Justin, isn't, is there going to be a kicking competition? Because Brian Callahan has clearly said there's not. But should there be a kicking competition? I mean, you got a rookie who goes out there and hits a 59-yarder and then a 46-yarder with the game on the line. Meanwhile, Nick Folk's set to make $3.5 million as a 40-year-old kicker in the final year of his contract. I mean, are we really not even going to let them compete here? What's going on?
Yeah, look, I appreciate Callahan's honesty, but I had the same reaction you did. I'm going, and it gave me flashbacks a little bit of Ryan Stonehouse and Brett Kern. Is Nick Folk, has he earned more goodwill than Brett Kern had at the time? That's what's confusing to me, right? When you have an opportunity on special teams to replace an older, aging guy with a young guy, you normally jump on that opportunity. For Callie to say it's not even a competition, I mean, Nick Folk is 40. Right? He's got 1 year left on his deal and his NFL career, I imagine. Now, mind you, I don't want to get too carried away. Our buddy at Broadway Sports, Easton Freeze, he did say on social media, or he alluded to, that Narveson hasn't been very good in camp. So that could be why, and that could be what Callahan means. And if so, we get it, right? It can't just be a competition in one preseason game. It's got to be a competition all camp. And if folks been blowing him out of the water all camp, then this isn't going to change their mind. I mean, Folk went 29 of 30 last year, 96%. It was the greatest single season in Titans kicking history, franchise history. So I get it from that aspect. But then again, I'm 40 years old. Folk is not good from 50 plus, by the way, and he won't be this year. Remember, I said it. He's money from 49 or less. That's my prediction for this year.
He has made 78 consecutive field goals under 40 yards. That is an ongoing NFL record. Every time he kicks an under 40-yard field goal, he extends his own record, 78 straight. So while we were all impressed and excited about Braden Narveson, and especially the big leg, because that's the thing, Titans kickers, I don't even remember, Rob Baronis making a 60-yarder is the last time the Titans had a kicker who could even make a kick from that far away. So that's what's exciting about Narveson, is that you're wow, we can actually extend the range of the special teams unit here, like the Cowboys sending Brandon Aubrey out for 66-yarders when we're used to the Titans getting to the other team's 40-yard line and having to punt because they can't make a 57-yard field goal. That's what excites you about Narveson. But the consistency that Folk brings, I just worry that because, like you said, he is 40, there's no long-term plan with Folk being your kicker. Like, he's going to be your kicker for 2024, and we're spending a lot of time on kicker. I apologize. We'll get to the rest of the game in a second. But you're giving Folk this season, and then you try to get Narveson on the practice squad after you just showed him off to the league as a guy that can make game winners with ice in his veins and a guy who can boot through 59-yarders. And there is a kicking shortage around the NFL. Usually there's 5 teams or so that are cycling through kickers the whole season. The Titans have been there as recently as 2020, I think 2018, 20, whatever it was. They've had multiple seasons like that under Mike Vrabel where they're just cycling through kickers, right? So that's a risk. I mean, you're definitely not keeping 2 kickers on the final 53-man roster, are you?
I don't think so. And I don't think you're going to be able to get him onto the practice squad at this point, right? Like, you'd have to be really lucky. I guess that's what they're going to try. But like you said, after he makes a game winner that was only a few yards away from 50, by the way, and he makes a 59-yarder, that's good luck, right? So I thought, you said he's spending a lot of time on kicker. It was the most interesting thing that happened in the game, in my opinion, was Braden Narveson kicking as he did. And then Callahan just flat out saying there's no competition. So it did make me, kind of scratch my head a little because Nick Folk is 40 years old. Like, they replaced Brett Kern, you know what I mean, when the time came. So, and neither here nor there, maybe, but I was a little surprised by the candor of the comment.
Yeah, I think the other factor to consider here is that Nick Folk's $3.5 million contract is essentially guaranteed for this season. It's not like they save money. They do save, and Zach from F Words Pod tweeted this out, they save $255,000 against the cap if they cut Nick Folk. So there is savings to be had. It's just extremely marginal, negligible amount. So let's move on and talk about some other stuff that happened in this game. Before I do, I want to remind everyone, if you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe to the Music City Audible channel. Give this video a like, thumbs up, and turn on channel alerts so you get a notification every time we drop a new video. And comment anything below. What did you like about this game? Should the Titans replace Nick Folk with Braden Narveson? What stood out to you about this game? Comment as you watch, as we go and we say things that register with you. Comment about them. Drop them. Multiple comments helps even more than just one comment. So we really appreciate you guys. And I also remind everyone that this episode is brought to you by Sinkers Beverages in East Nashville and Bluegrass Beverages in Hendersonville. More on Sinkers Beverages at the end of the episode. So stay tuned for that. All right, Justin, I'm just going to go through. I took 23 notes during this game while I was watching it. The kicker, Braden Narveson, was 2 of those 23 notes. So we got 21 other things here that I want to hit on. Who knows how many things you want to hit on? Let's just start at the top of my list. Andrew Rupsich started at right guard. Jalen Duncan started at left tackle. John Ojukwu started at right tackle. Now, Brian Callahan said no starters were going to play in this game, and that proved to be essentially true unless you count like starting kick returner, starting punt returner, which we're not even 100% sure that is locked up or if that's just a way the preseason reps are being distributed. And more on that in a bit because Callahan talked a little bit about that. But with Rupchich starting at right guard, with Dylan Radins getting the night off completely, along with the rest of the starting offensive line, I'm willing to say, now things can change, but I'm willing to say the right guard battle and the right tackle battle that have been the talk of training camp as like the 2 premier position battles, I'm willing to say it's over. It's Radins, it's Petit Frere, barring injury or barring a massive collapse by one of them, like they show up late every day and they stop practicing. Like, that's what I'm talking about, massive collapse.
One of them turns into Isaiah Wilson all of a sudden.
Yeah, I think I think it's over.
I'm going to go through rapid fire a little bit because you've got a lot of notes, it sounds like. Right tackle, not even close. It's Nicholas Petit. It's NPF. That's a no-brainer. I'm not quite ready to meet you there at the right guard one, but I will say I think Rupstitch probably didn't help himself. Like, I think him starting this game and Radis not playing at all, I don't think that signaled anything yet. I think it was probably giving Rupstitch an opportunity, right, to kind of narrow the gap. Because I've had this feeling that they don't want to give Radins that job. They don't have a ton of confidence in him. I think they were almost hoping Rupstitch would emerge, but he didn't help himself, I don't think, right? He had 2 penalties, right? 1 false start that was totally on him. He took ownership of it. He had a holding penalty. There was an article on paulkaharski.com that had comments from Rupstitch on it, where he almost sounded like he didn't agree with the holding call. I'm kind of reading between the lines, but he said, the ref said I didn't let go, quickly enough. I kind of thought I did, but anyway, 2 penalties at the end of the day. I think it's probably going to be Radins. I don't think Radins' stranglehold on the job is as strong as NPF's is. I guess that's what I'm saying.
I agree with that.
I think they're still a bit of something going on here, but Repsit's called for 2 penalties. The line generally struggled. Like Duncan had a false start and
I'm going to get
a
into
bunch
that.
of pressures.
Yeah, that's my next note is John Ojukwu and Jalen Duncan each flagged early for a false start, one on each of the first 2 drives. Then Duncan is beat for a sack to end the first drive and beat really bad, like thrown backwards, just horrible technique, just didn't look good at all. And then Ojukwu in the second quarter commits a holding penalty, and you're just sitting there thinking like, well, the tackle starting, like we know who the starters are based on this game. Like NPF is not losing his job to one of these guys. And it makes you concerned about the depth too, because I didn't see good tackle play from anybody that played tackle in this game for the Titans. Nobody played well at tackle. So you're concerned about the depth. We've been concerned about the depth. And that's just sort of where you're at. Leroy Watson was kind of fun. He was a very fired up guy on the field. I didn't know that about him. Like every time, good play or bad play, he got beat on one play and he's like just so emphatically like mad at himself, and then like has a good rep and is like so emphatically celebrating. Like I love the energy. That's great to see on the field. But yeah, I don't think the tackles played particularly well, and it's a concern. It's been a concern. We knew the depth wasn't good on the offensive line, but it's really like rearing its head here in the preseason.
Yeah, they got called for a bunch of penalties, gave up a bunch of sacks, or a bunch of pressures at least. It was sloppy play. It was not good. I think I'm at the point where, yeah, you may say there are slight favorites, but you could tell me any of those 4 that you didn't mention Jerron Christian, but he played tackle too. But like Jerron Christian, Leroy Watson, Ojukwu, Duncan, I guess 2 of them are going to make the roster. I think I'm at a point where you can give me any 2 of them, and I wouldn't be totally shocked. You know what I mean? Like it's going to be Duncan and Watson. It's going to be Ojukwu and Christian. It's going to be Ojukwu and whatever. Like any I don't think would totally stun me because none of them have been that good. None of them have really separated themselves. I probably give the slight advantage to Ojukwu and Duncan because they were here last year. I don't know what else to say, right? Like, yeah. But Watson and Christian, they've got the history with Bill Callahan. They went out and got both of them this offseason because Bill Callahan knew them. Like, I have no idea. No matter what, it's not good.
Yeah, exactly. All right. This theme of like this position battle is over is going to be, that's a running theme for me. And that's a lot of my notes are. My next one is the RB3 battle is RB3 battle is over. It's Julius Chestnut. It's not Hassan Haskins. It's not Jabari Small. It's Julius Chestnut. Look, Hassan Haskins provides a ton of value on special teams, and Brian Callahan even called him a special teams demon in the postgame presser last night. That said, Julius Chestnut is just a better runner of the football. He's just a better runner. He's patient. He had that one big run where his patience to allow the blocks to set up, if he's just like trying to hit that hole as fast as he can, there's no run play there at all. He goes for less than a yard. He lets the block set up and explodes for a 22-yard run. That was probably the best running play of the night. That wasn't Malik Willis running the ball. And he's a receiver, a threat as a receiver out of the backfield too. He's pretty good in pass protection. Like, if you needed somebody to come in and play running back, he is your best option, and I don't think it's particularly close. Jabari Small had a few impressive plays. Hassan Haskins did have one really impressive run with like the footwork shiftiness where he sort of avoided a tackler and got upfield. But I just think overall, the overall picture through 2 preseason games and probably practice as well. And there's a reason Julius Chestnut played in the first half and then played maybe a little tiny bit at the end of the game when they were like trying to mount a game-winning drive. They were like, okay, best players get back in there. Mason Rudolph, Julius Chestnut. And Hassan Haskins didn't get his first snap at running back until 12-something left in the third quarter on a second down play. Like, if he was higher in the pecking order at running back, he would have either not played at all at the running back position, or he would have played in the first quarter and then sat for the rest of the game on offense at least. Probably would have still played special teams. Now, he might have a role as a special teams guy, and they may keep 4 running backs because of that. But to me, the RB3 job, it's sealed up.
Yeah, maybe I'm too stubborn, but I'm not there yet either because I'm just not convinced that they're not going to make the decision based on special teams. Like, I hear what you're saying. I agree with what you're saying. Chestnut was the better runner and has been, fairly consistently, at least in the preseason. But I don't know that special teams is not going to make this decision for them. I think I think there's at least a chance that they feel we can get like-minded runners like Chestnut on the practice squad. We can't get a like-minded player like Hassan Haskins on special teams. I think that's the one lingering question for me. Again, maybe I'm too stubborn. I'm not going to push back and say, oh, it's close. Oh, Chestnut. I mean, the eye test is obvious. Chestnut was really good on Saturday night and was against San Francisco as well in the first preseason game. So he's been the better player, better runner. I'm just not sure. He outsnapped them 18-0, by the way. That's the official number in the first half at running back. Haskins had a bunch of special team snaps, but 18-0 at running back. So we'll see, but it'll be interesting because, again, I like to play this fun game. What would Mike Vrabel do? What would Brian Callahan do? We know Vrabel would keep Haskins for special teams, right? But I think every head coach likes special teams, right? It's not just Mike Vrabel. So will Callahan do the same thing, or will his, bias towards the offensive? I use bias not as a negative word on the offensive side of the ball. Be like, screw that. I'm keeping the better runner, the guy that could actually help me if I needed him to. So it'll be interesting to see what they do there.
And on that note, Julius Chestnut actually committed a holding penalty on a kick return. So
yeah.
If you're saying like, oh, Julius Chestnut can just play special teams too, he may not be quite as good as Hassan Haskins. It's like
not the same.
They gave him a chance and he committed a penalty. And that leads me to another note I have here. There were actually 2 holding penalties committed on returns. Last week, we were praising Colt Anderson for huge returns by Kearis Jackson and jha'quan Jackson. I mean, hey, man, it's what have you done for me lately? And what you did for me lately is coordinate a unit that committed 2 penalties. Like, come on, Colt, get your shit together. What's going on here? It's kind of a joke.
Par for the course for special teams. Get used to it. It's not just him. I feel like every damn team in the league, right? It's like every other return, there's a holding penalty. It just goes to show you, I don't have a major takeaway we're laughing about. I mean, week 1, probably just more of a fluke one-off, right? Like every team commits holding penalties on special teams. It's unfortunate it wasn't as good as it was in week 1. They couldn't carry that momentum. We saw Kearis Jackson, who got hurt in this game and left, by the way. They're saying it's not serious, but we saw him and jha'quan have such incredible returns in week 1. Week 2, I think the natural born reality kind of came back. They came back down to earth. Oh yeah, holding penalties are a thing.
So we've hit 10 of my 23 notes there. Kearis Jackson ankle injury was one of them. I have 3 more position battles that I feel like are wrapped up that I want to talk about, and then we can just move on to like players who stood out, players who struggled. So the next one, I think this is the biggest one and the one that we probably should have talked about first and that other Titans podcast probably talk about first. But you know what? We do our own thing here at Music City Audible. QB2, it's Mason Rudolph. It's not even close to me. It's always been Mason Rudolph. We've been saying this for literally months, ever since he signed here, that there wouldn't even be a competition. And Brian Callahan wanted to make it look like there was a competition. And credit to him for giving Malik a legitimate chance at the QB2. That's more than I thought was going to happen, honestly. I thought it would just be Mason Rudolph's QB2, Malik, you're with the 3s. And it is what it is. He gave Malik a legitimate chance. And Malik had been playing pretty good ball in training camp by all accounts, right? Yeah. In this game, I think Mason Rudolph separated himself, and it's not like either quarterback played particularly well or particularly poorly. Like Malik Willis didn't have a bad game, but he did have a pretty poor first half, struggled immensely in the first half. And granted, he's playing with backups. He's playing with, we mentioned the bad tackles. His only reliable receiver is Nick Westbrook-Akina, who that's another note we're going to get to in a second. But he just didn't get the offense moving at all. And then Mason Rudolph comes in for his first drive with under 5 minutes to play in the first half with the exact same unit around him, the exact same offensive line and receivers and running back interchanging between Chestnut and Jabari Smalls. And he leads a touchdown drive on his first drive. And it was just like the stark difference between what Rudolph can bring as like a consistent operator of the offense. Like he's not going to wow you. He's not going to make incredible throws or incredible off structure, Caleb Williams type, Patrick Mahomes type plays, but he's going to run the offense in a consistent way. And I think that's sort of what we saw here. Malik Willis then came in the third quarter, played really well in the third quarter, struggled a little bit more in the fourth quarter. And that's the thing, is it's that inconsistency with Malik where you kind of don't know what you're going to get, but there's going to be something good and something bad, versus Mason Rudolph, not a high ceiling, but he's consistently delivering what you need him to deliver. That, to me, is the big difference here and why Mason Rudolph is sort of going to run away from this point on with the QB2 job.
Yeah, I thought Malik was up and down. You know, there were some good plays. There were some good throws in there, decisive, accurate. There were some bad ones, too, where he took a little longer to go through his progressions, didn't get it off in time, or was the interception was a high ball that got tipped. I mean, Callahan essentially assigned blame to Malik, it sounded like, in the post-game presser for the pick. He said it could have ended our game right there, and we were lucky we were able to come back and win it. But he was up and down. Like I said, I thought the icing on the cake, I agree, was like Rudolph comes in, leads a touchdown drive right away. First drive, same cast. It was their first and only touchdown of the game. I think that kind of put any, competition to bed right there.
And then further, like Malik had, like you said, he had some good throws. He had two maybe of his best throws ever.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, the one last week
you're talking about.
The one last week that didn't count to Bryce Oliver was also one of his best throws ever, but he had one on like 3rd and long under pressure where he just rockets it over the middle of the field to Sam Schnee. Like that was an incredible throw. And then he had a similar one like that a few plays later on the same drive. Like he was making some plays.
The one to jha'quan Jackson where Jackson took a pop from Carlton Johnson. I think.
Down the field. Yeah, another great throw and a great play by Jackson to hold on to that ball, but also sort of a hospital ball from Malik. Like, be careful with those. Don't injure your guys in the preseason, especially. But then there were the first half misses, the high ball to Nick Westbrook-Akina over the middle that, like, he was wide open. You got to hit that one. He just straight up didn't see some receivers that were wide open at other points. jha'quan Jackson had a potentially big play, and maybe he saw him, but he was already coming off the read and didn't get it to him. Like, that sort of hesitation is still there on some plays. It's not as bad as it was last year or the year before, but it's still there a little bit. And then the end of the game, Malik Willis, you're in 4-minute drill time. Run out the clock and win the game, essentially. If you get it 3 or 4, maybe 5 first downs with 5 or so minutes left in the game, you go win the game. He throws an interception that's basically in field goal range, gives up the field goal. The Steelers take the lead. And then who comes in for the 2-minute drill to go get the game-winning field goal? It's not Malik Willis now. It's Mason Rudolph. So Malik Willis almost loses the game. Mason Rudolph comes back in and goes and wins them the game. Like, to me, this battle's over. And that was like 5 more of my notes. So that was pretty good. It was a pretty good little discussion there. Anything else on the QB battle?
No, it's over. I mean, Rudolph's the number 2. I think there's no doubt about it.
Another battle that I think is over, and I'm going to go really big picture broad here. I think the wide receiver group is set.
Okay. How many do they keep?
I think they keep 6, and I think those 6 are the top 5 are pretty much cut and dry, obvious. Yep. The top 4 did not play in this game, not due to injury because they were resting. Well, DeAndre Hopkins is injured, but he wouldn't have played if he was healthy. Calvin Ridley, Tyler Boyd, Treylon Burks, surprisingly, I think, is wide receiver 4, pretty clearly, because Nick Westbrook-Akina, wide receiver 5, was playing like deep into the first half and scored a touchdown with, 2 minutes left in the first half. Nice play by him. He had a pretty good game too. And Brian Callahan also said, like, Nick Westbrook's a guy that, we wanted to give him a chance to like show off a little bit, and because we needed somebody out there that the quarterbacks could count on.
That's what I was thinking. It's funny. I didn't hear that comment, but that's what I was thinking. I didn't hear Callahan say that, but I'm like, I feel like it's a favor to the quarterbacks, right? Like, we know NWI is going to be where he's supposed to be, when he's supposed to be there. Let's give them a legit number 1 receiver in this type of game.
Yeah, and he didn't say it like outright. He sort of intimated it. Like, it was sort of like you had to assume based on what he was saying. But that's sort of the gist that I got from his comments about why Nick Westbrook was out there late in the second half. And then wide receiver 6, to me, it's locked up after this game, is jha'quan Jackson. I mean, they spent a draft pick on him. Yeah. He provides immense value as a returner on special teams, and he's a playmaker, man. I mean, that one catch.
Oh, is he now? Is he now?
The one
Wish
catch.
You had someone tell you that on this podcast.
The one catch he had from Rudolph that went, I think, for like maybe only 13 yards or something, but he's like catching it against zone coverage in between a couple defenders. He's coming back to the ball, almost jumps the route like a DB, jumps in front of the DB, the way a DB would jump the route in front of a receiver, to go attack the ball, make sure that it's not broken up, or it could have been intercepted, honestly, and then spins out of a tackle, turns up field, and picks up a bunch of yards. Like, that play, to me, sealed not only is this guy provide value as a returner, but he's a receiver, too. And Brian Callahan recently said they're going to keep 6 receivers active on game day, most likely. I don't know. Maybe they keep a 7th guy. Maybe it's a Kyle Phillips who missed this game with a hamstring injury. Maybe it's not going to be Mason Kinsey, but maybe it's Kearis Jackson because he also provides some return ability. Do you think they keep 7 receivers? Because right now, if I had to guess, I would say they keep 6, and those are the 6.
I've got 7 because I think Kearis is the starting kick returner. I could be convinced off that hill. You know what I mean? Especially now that he got hurt. Hopefully he's healthy and can practice next week, because I don't think that's done. But I know 7's a lot, but I've only got 3 tight ends on my current 53, so I think that's maybe doable. Those 6 are a lock. I mean, I thought jha'quan Jackson's always been a lock because they drafted him. And by the way, Malik Washington for the Miami Dolphins last night, 1 catch for 4 yards. Just want to throw that out there for you. I think you know why I'm doing that. But
I was a big Malik Washington guy. I was indeed.
I'm going 7 right now. That first game against San Francisco, Kearis had that amazing kick return. He was a great kick returner last year when he was healthy. So 7's a lot. I can be convinced otherwise, but right now that's what I've got.
And Brian Callahan talked about Jha'quan Jackson too after the game and saying that the reason that he said he earned himself a really long look. And that's why he played so much in this game. And he said, we wanted to see if what last week in the return game, if that was real. That was the term he used, if that was real. And I think Jha'quan proved it was real. He had another nice-ish punt return in this game. He had another big return that got called back, I think, for one of those holding penalties we mentioned. But overall, he led the Titans in receiving in this game. He had 4 catches for 57 yards. Yeah. He was the most reliable playmaker on the field for the Titans at many times. And that's pretty great to see from your late-round rookie. I think the Titans may have found a gem. The other position battle, the final position battle that I think is somewhat locked up is the edge spot. I think Jalen Harrell has separated himself and will probably open the season as the edge 3. By the way, some news related to what we talked about on the last podcast. Jeffrey Simmons broke the news, tweeted it out. Arden Key has won his appeal and will not be suspended. I feel incredibly smart, by the way.
I've never seen it before.
On our last pod, did I not say that every day that goes by, I feel like this is not going to actually happen? And then literally the next day,
you did.
It came out that it's not actually happening. I've never seen it before either. Like a PED suspension. I've seen it where it gets down to where it reduces to 4 games from 6 or 2 games from 6, but I've never seen them straight up just say, "Oh, never mind, you're not suspended." Actually.
Yeah, my bad. Those were just cornflakes you were taking, and we thought it was something. I don't understand how. He obviously must have proven that the NFL substance list, whatever, yada yada yada. It's a very lengthy legal thing that's boring, but it's great news for the Titans, isn't it? To not have him missing 6 games. We've complained about the edge depth all offseason, and especially with him being suspended, or we thought he was going to be suspended. It's funny to me that it's probably the biggest thing that happened for the edge group yesterday was the Arden Key news. And then Jalen Harrell goes out there and has a 2-sack game, a strip sack. Both those sacks were impressive. Power, effort. Nearly forced a turnover with the first one being the strip sack. I hope he's your edge 3. I hope he is. He's got way more upside than Rashad Weaver. Not only is he younger, but I also think it's clear that he's more athletic and more explosive as well.
Yeah,
right? That's a no-brainer. So they're going to keep. Is it going to be just those 4? I think that's the other question. Do they just cut all of Shane Ray, Thomas Rush, Caleb Murphy? I think that's the other interesting thing there. But big news with the Arden Key stuff. And then Jalen Harrell was one of the best Titans on the field on Saturday night. It's been the theme of training camp, to be honest, right? He's been pretty good the entire summer. I think we left the San Francisco game last weekend saying we wish he showed a bit more, right? He didn't, but how does he respond to it? A 2-sack performance here. So yeah. I hope you're right. I hope there's no ageism, no whatever you want to call it. Do not give Rashad Weaver more snaps than Jalen Harrell in the regular season just because of, he's more experienced, because Jalen Harrell's been the better, more explosive player.
Right. The first sack was especially impressive. He goes with a speed to power bull rush, puts Stone Forsythe, who I don't know if he's starting right now for Seattle, but he was at least drafted to be at some point a starting level. They wanted him to be a starter, and I don't think he lived up to it. But just put him on the turf. Buried him backside into the ground, and then gets to the quarterback for the strip sack. Keandre Coburn barely missed on recovering that fumble, and the Seahawks were able to maintain possession, but the defense gets off the field on the next play. And then his second one, more of a coverage sack, I think, but you mentioned effort, and I think that's sort of what it was, great effort to keep fighting and get your ass to the quarterback and bring him to the ground.
Showed some power on that rep too, I thought, didn't he? Initially. Yeah.
And we have covered all but 4 of my notes now, so I'm just going to go through and hit 3 guys that I think stood out in a good way, and 1 guy that I think stood out in a not as good way. Chance Campbell flying around again. He didn't have as many eye-popping plays in this game, but he did have a crucial pass breakup on a 3rd down. He had a nice tackle for loss. He's just flying around, always around the ball, doing a great job of making stops. And so I think he has pretty much proved himself to be linebacker 4, I would say. I think your pecking order at linebacker right now is Kenneth Murray, not Kyler, obviously. Kenneth Murray, Jack Gibbons, Otis Reese, Chance Campbell. Is that where we're at?
3A, 3B, 2A, 2B, 2C. You know what I mean? Like it's really close. I thought it was interesting he was playing into the fourth quarter, by the way. Chance Campbell was still playing in the fourth quarter. Mind you, they are a little shorthanded there with, JoJo Doman and Garrett Wallow. Garrett Wallow's done for the year, but Doman left practice earlier. So they are a little short. Cedric Gray didn't play in this game either, did he? With an injury. So they're very shorthanded at off-ball linebacker for a preseason game. Like, to give you an example, the Seahawks were missing 2 off-ball linebackers coming into this game, and they signed one just for this game, essentially. So Titans didn't go that route. So I guess they had to play a lot of Chance Campbell and James Williams. And I didn't see Otis Reese's snap count, but they had to play a lot of those reserve linebackers in this game. So maybe that's why he's playing in the fourth quarter. But if you didn't know all that, initially I was a little surprised he was still in the game that late.
The question is, do they keep 5 linebackers? Because James Williams is also flying around, flashing, making plays, tackles for losses. I mean, he was all over the field in the snaps that he got in the fourth quarter last night, and I've been super impressed by him through 2 games. At this point, he's a drafted guy. I don't see how you leave him off the roster, but does Otis Reese not make the team? Does Chance Campbell, like, it's one of Jack Gibbons, Otis Reese, Chance Campbell, and James Williams. Like, you're not keeping 5 linebackers, are you?
Dude, you'd be keeping 6 if you mentioned those, because didn't you forget they're going to keep Cedric Gray?
Unless he makes a PUP or IR and like red shirts this year.
I mean, yeah, I guess how serious this injury is, but the point is, if he's not, PUP is, honestly, you almost hope that's the case, at least with PUP, to buy them some time, because if he makes the 53, you're cutting 2 of those. You're cutting you're cutting like a lot of those guys we just mentioned. There's no way, no matter what, though. There's no way, no matter what happens, Gray, that you can keep all of them. You can't keep Campbell. You can't keep Reese. You can't keep Williams, and you can't keep Gibbons, right? And Gibbons, we know for sure is going to make. He's the only one I think that's for sure going to make it. The other 3, you're trying to keep at least 2 of them, right? Like, it's going to be really interesting to see what happens at off-ball linebacker. It's a jumbled mess right now. I guess it's kind of a good problem to have. I still don't know if you'd say they'd have great depth there, but it might be better than we initially thought, right? Yeah. Like, 3 weeks ago, we're both Otis Reese fans, so maybe we wouldn't have said it about Otis Reese, but 3 weeks ago, we would have been like, oh, God, like, if Chance Campbell has to start a game this year, they're in trouble. And someone else might have said, if Otis Reese has to start a game this year, they're in trouble.
Well, I don't think
you feel that way anymore.
Yeah, we definitely talked about how there's so many bodies in the linebacker room, and we just said, we just need 2 or 3 guys to step up, and this team will be set. And I even mentioned Chance Campbell as being more in the mix based on reports from like the very first week of training camp, and I'm been impressed with him throughout preseason. Like, actually, really impressed with him.
If you're going to keep 5 off-ball linebackers, and I think you're going to, and again, that's not even including Cedric Gray. Say you're projecting he's on PUP or whatever. If you're going to keep 5, I think the saving grace of James Williams probably gives you a lot on special teams.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think the others can as well. Like, didn't Otis Reese get some love from Mike Vrabel for special teams last? Yeah, so Otis Reese and James Williams will both give you a lot on special teams. Maybe that's your Hassan Haskins decision too. Oh, we don't. Otis Reese and James Williams are going to give us a lot. Remember, when it comes to special teams position battles, it's not just running back versus running back. No, like that makes your decision too. So maybe that helps with the Haskins chestnut thing. But I think Reese and Williams have to be on this team, and certainly Chance Campbell does too.
Yeah, they've all earned a spot. All right, 2 more little small things here. Rutgers undrafted free agent rookie Isaiah Eiton flashed twice over a 3-play span. The first time he swims over the guard trying to block him. I tweeted this play out, and it's hilarious because I always say, when you're watching defensive line play, if you watch the offensive linemen, you get a much better sense of which defensive linemen are winning and which ones are not. The guard just like runs forward up the field looking around for Eiton, like what just happened, because he gets swam over. Eiton tackles the running back for no gain, and then 2 plays later it was a sort of a coverage sack, but also one of those hustle cleanup sacks. Eiton gets the sack on 3rd down to force a field goal, stops what was a long, promising drive for the Seahawks, keeps them out of the end zone there. Obviously, every time he kept them out of the end zone, made a difference in the final result of this game when it's a 16-15 game. So, nice job by Isaiah Eiton. I think he's got an outside shot to sort of crack the back end of that defensive tackle depth, just because there's not a lot of competition, especially with the injury to Marlon Davidson. But I don't know how you feel. Abdullah Anderson also ended up making a nice play later in this game too, so there is some competition there. But Isaiah Aiton, who has reportedly been flashing, in training camp, comes up big here on a couple plays in the preseason.
I think Abdullah probably comes in too late to have any real shot. But Aiton, they said he was going to play a lot. He flashed, like you said, 2 really, really nice reps almost consecutively, right? Almost back to back. So I think the Marlon Davidson season-ending injury, it's a biceps tear, according to Paul Kaharski. It's definitely opened up a door for competition here, right? Quinton Bohanna is in that mix. Aiton's in that mix. Only one of them is going to make it, right? And I think it's probably just between the 2 of them, to be honest. And I think Coburn is probably a lock. Do they keep 4 or 5? I forgot TK McClendon Jr. I think he's in that mix too. They probably only keep 1 of 3 of Bohanna, TK McClendon, and TK's more of a D end. He's not going to kick inside as much. But interesting to see what they do there, because Aiton certainly took advantage of his opportunity.
If it was up to me right now after this game, maybe it's recency bias, I'm giving that final spot to Aiton, but who knows? All right, the last note I have. What on earth, Justin, is an Aesop Winston Jr.? And why was Aesop Winston Jr. able to so easily dust Trey Avery on that touchdown? Great throw by Sam Howell, who was a starting quarterback for an entire season. So, it's not like it was totally backups playing out there. But this guy Winston was playing deep into the second half for the Seahawks. He's obviously can't be that high on their pecking order. I've never heard of him. And Trey Avery just got to get his head around and knock the ball away, and not just... He was really late to try to contest that play, and he didn't play particularly bad outside of giving up that touchdown, but what the heck, man? Aesop Winston Jr., are you kidding me?
You're going to laugh, but I did a little research on the Seahawks going into this game, and from what I saw, he had actually been getting quite a bit of praise for how he's been playing in camp. So they got a ton of receivers on the back end there. No one knows who's going to make it for them, but from what I had heard, some decent things about him going into this one.
Well, we hit all 23 in my notes, Justin. Are there any other final takeaways, standout players, struggling players that you want to hit on after watching this game?
No, I think we covered. David Martin Robinson was pretty good at tight end 3 again in that mix. Good call. He had a great run after catch there underneath the coverage. So that battle, I think, goes forward. You said most of them are done. I'm ready for the preseason to be over, and I'm ready to finalize. It's weird to use the word finalize and initial in the same sentence, but I'm ready to finalize this initial 53-man roster and see what it looks like.
It's funny.
Ready for cut down day. Pumped about everything that's to come.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned David Martin Robinson, actually. 3 catches, 38 yards. One other note, Mason Kinsey had 2 drops in this game, but it was reported afterwards that he broke a finger. So I'm kind of the mindset that, it's hard to catch a ball with a broken finger, but if you're putting yourself on the field, you're saying I can still catch the ball. Otherwise, you can go put yourself on the sideline. And I get it. He's fighting for a roster spot, so he's going to put himself on the field as much as possible. But then catch the ball. There was one that hit him in the face mask, and he's complaining for a flag instead of just catching the ball. All right, that will do it for this one. Thanks to everyone out there for tuning in. Remember, if you're watching on YouTube, subscribe, please, to the Music City Audible channel. Give this video a thumbs up, like, and turn on channel alerts so you get a notification every time we drop a new video. And make sure to leave a comment. Any comment you want, comment it below. Comment on Isaiah Aiton. Comment on Mason Kinsey's broken fingers. Tell me I'm being too hard on him and that he has broken fingers, so how's he supposed to catch the ball? Tell me Braden Narveson should make this roster. Tell me why, anything you want to tell me. I don't care. Just say boosting, tighten up, whatever you want. We appreciate all the comments. And a final reminder, this episode is brought to you by Sinkers Beverages in East Nashville and Bluegrass Beverages in Hendersonville. Sinkers Beverages is the premier wine, spirits, and beer store in East Nashville, serving the community since 1985. Their knowledgeable staff is proud to help you with large parties, themed events, or finding something unique for a special occasion. From birthday parties to milestone celebrations to everyday moments, Sinkers can help with the right drink for every occasion. And if you head to the sinkersbeverages.com website or check the link in this podcast description, you can join the In Crowd. In Crowd members get access to allocated wines and spirits, exclusive events, early access to barrel releases, and more. There's also a link in this podcast description to Justin Melo's new book, Pre-Order, which you can check out. Titans of the South, illustrated history book of the Titans. Really cool project that Justin's worked on for 2 years. So check that out in the comments below if you haven't been following this channel for the last I don't know, week or so when we announced that initially. You might have missed it. So go check out Justin's book. Go join the Sinkers In crowd. Go follow us on Twitter. Follow me especially because I'm tweeting every clip of the game. And if you follow Justin, you'll see Justin reusing my videos and also tweeting on every clip from the game. So it's a pretty good system we got going here. Any final parting words before we sign off?
Y'all stay safe out there and tighten up.
Love it.
A Broadway sports media production.